Imagine the serene expanse of untouched countryside where the horizon kisses the earth and the only sounds are the whispers of the wind and the gentle bellow of bison. This was my sanctuary, my life's work, until an audacious invasion tore through the tranquility like a storm on the plains. When a power-hungry HOA president and her elite clique commandeered my ranch for their extravagant summer gala, they trampled over more than just grass, they trampled over my very soul. What boundaries would you fiercely defend when everything you've nurtured over 30 years hangs in the balance? My name is Henry Caldwell, and 30 years ago, I invested every cent I had into 15 acres of pristine land just outside Riverdale County. It was a canvas of rolling hills under the vast azure sky, a place where I could finally sculpt my dream. With my own hands, I built my ranch house perched atop a natural spring, its water as sweet as the freedom it symbolized. For 4 decades, I had wandered the Midwest learning the language of livestock, the rhythms of the seasons, and the art of living off the land. When I settled here, I knew precisely what I wanted: American bison, those majestic behemoths that once thundered across these plains, now nearly extinct by our hands. I began with 3 calves, a humble start, but my herd grew, each animal a testament to conservation and respect for nature. Storm, my prize bull, was born right here on this sacred ground. A 2,000-pound embodiment of dignity, his eyes seemed to hold the ancient wisdom of the plains. For nearly 20 years, my life was a symphony of simplicity and joy, waking at dawn to tend to my bison, savoring the unblemished beauty of the land, living in harmony with no neighbors, no complaints, just me, my animals, and acres of freedom stretching to the horizon. But then developers descended like locusts. They bought the adjacent land, transforming it into whispering meadows, a subdivision of uniform mansions on cramped lots, each with pompous names like the Harrington and the Ashford. City dwellers poured in, bringing with them a disregard for the land's legacy and the peace that had once reigned supreme. Country living, they envisioned, was a grander backyard while retaining the convenience of suburbia. They swiftly organized an HOA, binding themselves with regulations more intricate than the ancient scriptures of my forebears. At first, their concerns were quaint squabbling over the height of mailboxes and the hue of shutters. I paid them little mind. My land lay outside their jurisdiction, and I had been there long before their arrival. But then Eleanor Harrington, with her Connecticut charm, swept into the neighborhood and claimed the presidency of the HOA. She radiated an aura of East Coast affluence and entitlement, the kind of woman whose hands had never known the roughness of real work, yet felt qualified to school me on land stewardship. Our initial encounter was telling. She surveyed my sun-baked ranch house and my well-worn jacket as if I were an exhibit in a museum. Her Mercedes, polished to a high sheen, sat in my dusty driveway, while she stood before me in her magazine-worthy ranch chic attire, designer jeans paired with a blouse crisp as the morning air. "Mr. Caldwell," she began, her tone laced with a syrupy condescension, "we are thrilled to have such rustic charm adjacent to our community. But have you pondered how your activities might influence our property values? Perhaps a consultation with our esteemed landscapers could be beneficial." I watched her retreat to her car, her image fading into the dust, contemplating how some could look at the earth and see merely monetary value. Then the letters began. The initial one criticized my split-rail fence for not aligning with their community standards. I rang the HOA office, clarifying that my property was beyond their control. The secretary, sounding somewhat abashed, promised to amend their records. I believed that was the end of it. Yet 2 weeks later, another letter appeared, this time signed by Eleanor, voicing concerns about agricultural activities near residential areas, citing an ordinance that had long been repealed. As they started complaining about, determined to resolve the discord, I ventured to an HOA meeting, hoping that a sincere face-to-face discussion would dissolve the clouds of misunderstanding. At the age of 62, I had come to believe that most disputes could be smoothed over with a bit of honest dialogue. Oh, how mistaken I was. I entered their grand clubhouse, its floors reflecting my worn boots, the air scented with the newness of granite countertops and the gleam of stainless steel appliances. Clad in my best shirt and jeans, I felt their eyes upon me, their gazes heavy with judgment, as if I were a speck of dirt on their polished world. Eleanor, poised behind a podium, wielded a PowerPoint slide labeled Community Standards Enforcement. There, circled in red, was a photograph of my bison enclosure branded with the chilling words, "Hazards adjacent to our community." Her voice cut through the silence. "These animals are dangerous," she declared, flicking to a close-up of Storm, my majestic bison. "They belong in a zoo." I could bear it no longer. Rising to my feet, I retorted, "I raise conservation bison, and this is private property outside your jurisdiction." Eleanor's smirk was like ice. "Mr. Caldwell, your setup might have been acceptable once, but our community has evolved," she retorted, her words dripping with condescension. After the meeting, Tom Larson, a kind-hearted retiree from Cincinnati's factory lines, now living on the development's outskirts, drew me aside. "Henry, they're plotting to force you out. Eleanor's husband plays golf with the county commissioner every Sunday. They're eyeing your zoning." The following day, I found the meeting minutes in my mailbox sections, highlighted with ominous intentions. Explore nuisance ordinances, investigate watershed regulations, and a chilling note, potential imminent domain claim for community access road. My sanctuary, my own land, was under siege. By early summer, the HOA drama had faded into the background of my thoughts until their glossy newsletter arrived. The headline boasted, "Summer Celebration, a Community Barbecue Extravaganza." A map within highlighted the event location, my rear pasture, my land. In the fine print, they thanked the county commissioners for facilitating the temporary use of the adjacent scenic property. They had claimed my most cherished 3 acres, including the spring that nourished the land. A certified letter from Eleanor soon followed stating my pasture, my sanctuary, would now serve their summer festivities. My heart sank as I learned that my own land was being brazenly commandeered under the guise of a county ordinance. I reached out to my trusted attorney, Sam Carter, who had been by my side through thick and thin for decades. "This is an outrage, Henry," he exclaimed, his voice firm with conviction. "They can't just seize private property like this. There's no such ordinance. It's either a grievous error or outright deceit." He dispatched cease and desist letters with the urgency of a seasoned warrior, but the HOA, in their arrogance, turned a blind eye. Imagine my horror when I discovered they were selling tickets, $175, a person $125, for couples to experience an authentic ranch on my very own land. Photos of my spring and my herd were plastered everywhere, and they planned to serve bison burgers, all in full view of the very animals they were exploiting. The sheer cruelty of it left me reeling. I marched into the county office, my voice trembling, with a mix of anger and disbelief. The clerk, leaning in with a conspiratorial whisper, revealed, "Mrs. Harrington's husband golfs with Commissioner Ellis every Sunday. Nothing will happen before July 15th. That was the date of their gala. In a desperate bid, I posted no trespassing signs, only for them to be swiftly replaced by arrows directing to event parking. 2 weeks before this grand spectacle, the roar of diesel engines shattered the tranquility of dawn. I found trucks on my access road, workers in Whispering Meadows polos, marking my pasture for tents and a stage. Confronting the foreman, I declared, "This is private property. You're trespassing." His response was a nonchalant shrug. "Take it up with the lady in charge." There she was, Eleanor, in her pristine white linen pants, orchestrating the setup with the precision of a field marshal. I argued the illegality of their actions, but she dismissed me with a wave of her hand. "The county gave us provisional approval," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Progress happens, Mr. Caldwell, whether dinosaurs like you adapt or not." They even hung a banner proclaiming authentic bison burgers, a taste of the Wild West, right in front of my herd. Desperate, I called the sheriff, only to be told it was a civil matter. Eleanor's smirk was triumphant. "Sheriff Dawson has VIP tickets," she boasted. "His campaign got a significant donation from us." That evening, I sat on my porch with Mike Turner, my ranch hand of 15 years, a Vietnam vet, whose loyalty was as quiet as his demeanor. We watched the sun dip below the horizon, contemplating the storm brewing on our peaceful land. As the weekend loomed, my neighbor suggested a temporary retreat to let Eleanor and her extravagant entourage revel in their revelry, only to serve them with a lawsuit later. I shook my head in defiance. "If we leave, we're surrendering," I declared. This was more than just a dispute over land. It was about defending my rights, my heritage. Together, we hatched a plan utilizing my portable fencing to shepherd my herd through a natural corridor leading right into their setup area. At the stroke of midnight, Tom came knocking. "They're expecting over 300 people," he whispered urgently. "Eleanor's even hired off-duty bouncers to handle any disturbances." She was calling this her signature achievement. He slipped me their schedule. They planned to serve Bison burgers at 12:30, right after her grand speech. Come Saturday morning, luxury vehicles lined my road like a car show. Guests draped in designer finery meandered across my pasture, their laughter mingling with the soft lowing of my bison, blissfully unaware of the irony. Caterers busied themselves near the spring grills, roaring to life, setting the stage for the Bison burger station. Eleanor, resplendent in a floral dress, took the stage at 11:00 a.m. "Welcome to our first annual summer celebration," she proclaimed with a sweeping gesture. "This landscape is our shared treasure." I couldn't stand by any longer. With determined steps, I approached the stage. "This is private property," I announced, voice firm. "You're trespassing. Move this event." Her laughter rang out mocking. "Get off my stage before security removes you," she taunted. With a nod to Mike, the signal was given. He swung open the fencing, creating a path for my herd. Moments later, Storm emerged on a rise, a majestic 2,000 pounds of living breathing power, followed by 12 more bison. The crowd's chatter ceased as they approached. Eleanor's screech cut through the air. Security contained those animals, but the guards backed off, their bravado vanishing. The chef abandoned the burger station in a flurry of panic. Storm, with a curious sniff at the meat, led the herd toward the stage. Eleanor fled, her cries of lawsuits echoing as her husband stumbled in the mud. The herd, in their innocent quest for food, trampled the fine china and scattered the buffet. Guests scrambled, leaving behind their designer belongings in their haste to escape. From my porch, I watched the unfolding scene, a smile tugging at my lips. Poetic justice indeed. Sheriff Dawson arrived 20 minutes later. Eleanor, her face flushed with anger, demanded my arrest. "He released wild animals. It's attempted murder," she shrieked. The sheriff, looking at Storm, now nibbling on some fruit, replied with a calm, "They seem tame to me. This is Mr. Caldwell's." The saga reached its climax when Tom, with a voice both firm and resolute, declared, "The HOA never had permission." His words sliced through the tension like a sharp knife. I checked, and indeed no permit had been issued. A retired judge, his face stern with the weight of justice, added, "Their county stamp was forged." The commissioner, his authority now undeniable, admitted no authorization had been granted. The sheriff, his gaze piercing, turned to Eleanor. "You're trespassing," he declared with finality. "Leave, or Mr. Caldwell can press charges for trespassing, property damage, and fraud." Her eyes flared with defiance as she hissed, "This isn't over." But she left her defeat as palpable as the dust settling around us. That very night, the HOA, in a rare moment of humility, removed Eleanor from her position as president. By the week's end, they sent an apology and a check for the damages, restoring my fence line to its rightful place. The commissioner, in a moment of reflection, ensured new protections for my land, admitting, "I forgot the people who've been this county's backbone." Oh, how the tides of justice can turn. A magazine article, "Last Stand at Caldwell Ranch," went viral, exposing the struggles of rural landowners. Eleanor and her husband, their dreams of grandeur shattered, sold their home and retreated to Connecticut. The new HOA board, in a gesture of reconciliation, asked me to help with a heritage initiative to honor the area's past. Now I rise with the sun, tend to my herd, and breathe in the freedom of my land, knowing it's mine. Storm, ever vigilant, still perks up at the scent of barbecue, a playful reminder of the day he stood up for our home. Let them throw their galas. I'll keep my pasture where true freedom lives. As we close this chapter, I extend my heartfelt thanks to each of you for joining me on this journey. Your support has been a beacon of light. If this story moved you, please comment, like, share, or subscribe to our channel. Let's keep the conversation going and stand together for what's right.